I want to talk about small, affordable pickup trucks. Back in the 80s and 90s, you could buy a very cheap, stripped down pickup truck. They weren't very strong and they couldn't tow that much, but they filled a very specific niche. Not everybody needs to tow 10,000 pounds. But the thing is, when you speak to the owners of these trucks, most of them will tell you that they don't mind paying a lot of money for them because what they were looking for wasn't necessarily something affordable. They just wanted a smaller truck than a full-size version. This 2021 Ford Ranger Tremor is a case in point. Equipped this way, it's a $55,000 pickup truck. You add $4,000 more and you're in Ford F-150 Lariat territory. So it's pretty much the same price as a well-equipped F-150, even if it's an aging pickup truck, and even if it's considerably smaller and less effective than a larger alternative. Now, what does Tremor mean? It's a package you can graft onto a Ford Ranger Lariat. It costs about $4,800 over a standard Ranger Lariat, and it gives you quite a lot of off-road gear. It's not the equivalent, however, to a Chevrolet Colorado ZR2 or even a Ram 1500 TRX, but the gear is quite compelling. You're getting dedicated off-road tires, a slightly lifted ride height, you got Fox shocks in the rear, skid plates underneath, and a rear locker. It also looks properly badass. You'll recognize a Tremor from the red C shape here in the grille, and this one has a really cool matte kind of greenish bluish paint job. It looks quite dashing. You've also probably noticed that the Tremor has a different front bumper than a conventional Ford Ranger. It has been shaved to increase the approach and departure angles. It's the same story out the rear. So the package basically gives you something comparable to a Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro or a GMC Canyon AT4. When I originally drove the Ford Ranger when it came out in 2019, I didn't have many positive things to say about the vehicle. The model I was driving was plagued with so many issues, and that was a press unit. The rear seat would fall on its own, the sunglass holder just stayed in my hands, and the emergency braking system just kept on slamming on the brakes for no reason. I also didn't like the overall build quality of this pickup truck. It just felt very flimsy. The materials used were very cheap, and it felt old. Old because it kind of is. Although the Ranger came out on our market about 2 years ago, it's been sold in other markets for over a decade. And even worse than that, the architecture under this Ranger comes from Troller, a Brazilian truck company that Ford purchased on a rebate. And it built small trucks on its architectures and some of its drivetrains for developing countries. We basically got a pickup truck that was designed for developing countries, sold here on our market with an inflated price tag. I just found it was a very cynical vehicle. I didn't believe that Ford had properly remarketed the Ranger on our market. Then there's the turbocharged engine under the hood. It's a 2.3-liter four-cylinder. It's a well-known engine. This is what has powered the Ford Focus RS in the past and currently powers the Ford Mustang EcoBoost. It's got good power. I mean, 270 horsepower, 310 foot-pounds of torque. It's made into a 10-speed automatic gearbox. And when you gun it, there are the traditional turbo lag delays and transmission delays, but it develops good power. This thing gets up and goes. And in the small truck world, the Ranger right now really is the more athletic one because there's a lot less weight under the hood. It makes for a more dynamic driving experience. But in terms of reliability, I was worried. Nobody puts a four-cylinder turbo in a pickup truck these days. Everybody, I mean, all of the Ranger's competitors utilize a V6 engine. And there's a reason for that. There's less strain on a V6 engine. Turbo motors tend to need to rev more, they're boosted as well, and there's just submitted to more abuse. But so far, the Ranger has been quite reliable for Ford. I mean, there hasn't been many issues with the drivetrain. The problems have been related to build quality, paint quality as well. These things have been known for chipping their paint after driving on a few dirt roads. So far what I've been noticing about the package is the suspension is very smooth, and it's out here in the bumpy stuff that the Ranger comes alive. It was already quite a capable off-roading machine, and with this package it just gets better. The large knobby tires really give it a smooth feel over the rough stuff. The suspension is compliant enough, and I just love the way that turbocharged 4-cylinder and 10-speed automatic work in situations like these. What's great about having a 4-cylinder versus a V6 when you're out here in the mud or off-roading is you have a lot less unsprung weight on the front axle, and you really feel it. The Ranger feels light on its feet. It feels agile. It feels a lot more easier to control in a trail like this one. Now at this point, it's not too gnarly, so I'm going to take off 4x4 low, put it in 4x4 high, and put it back in neutral. And there you go, it has switched back for me, and I'll gain a bit more speed here in this trail because it's not too bumpy. I'm just going to try to avoid the tree branches and just try out the suspension at a higher speed, and it's actually quite good. Again, when you put it in 4x4 low, the traction control system kicks off right away. In 4x4 high, it puts the traction control back on. You can manually remove it, but I'm going to leave it because the Ranger has some pretty trick electronic stuff going on that allows it to be more athletic in situations like this one. So I'm just going to do a U-turn here. Now, there isn't much inside a Tremor that distinguishes it from a regular Ford Ranger. I mean, the only way you'll know that you've purchased the package is the red Tremor logos on the leather seats. Leather seats come standard in this truck because it is part of the Lariat package. Now, Ford did try to improve some of the materials for 2021, but it's all rather Spartan. However, I do find some of its controls quite clever and highly effective. Now, the only way to put this thing in all-wheel drive is through this knob that I have right here next to the gear lever. I can choose between 2-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive high, and 4-wheel drive low. And I do have the button here for the rear locker. Again, this is part of the Tremor package. The Ford Ranger also gives you a default towing mode. So when you're towing, by the way, this thing will tow more than 7,000 pounds. That's quite a lot for a mid-sized truck. Well, you just press this button and the truck will figure it out for you, and you'll be able to haul your boat. In terms of infotainment system, it's Ford's classic Sync 3 infotainment interface. It works relatively well. The screen is starting to be rather small for the segment, but it gets the job done. I mean, anyway, the Ranger does have that going for it in this segment, in the mid-sized truck category. So the Ranger's interior isn't that much of a letdown. I mean, just don't expect it to be super fancy in here and have super high quality materials, but overall execution is fair. Controls are easy to access. I got good visibility all around. Same with the gauges. They're quite straightforward and easy to comprehend. So obviously, rear seat room in a mid-size truck will never be as spacious as in a full-sizer, but the Ranger gets the job done rather well. As you can see, I can sit behind myself. I'm 6 foot tall. The seat is pulled all the way back, and okay, it's hugging my knees a bit, but I have a nice seating position and headroom is ample. However, the Ranger is a narrow pickup truck. Don't expect to be able to sit 3 adults here in the back. You might be a little squeezed, but for 3 kids, it's perfect. I mean, it gets the job done. So what to think about the Tremor package for the 2021 Ford Ranger? I mean, it's pretty much similar to what you'll get with the competition in terms of hardware. It is very aggressively priced. Now, you are going to pay a lot of money for this kind of Ranger, so expect to pay $150 for this small guy right here. But that's what the competition is doing anyway. Off-road pickup trucks are the big thing these days. General Motors offers this, Toyota offers this, and Nissan is coming with an all-new Frontier Pro 4X. So I mean, Ford had to answer with the Ranger. However, what I'm going to say is that Ford really needs to bring the Raptor out, the Ranger Raptor, the one it sells in other markets, because right now the Colorado ZR2 doesn't have any real competition. We want to see more hardcore mid-sized trucks. I mean, yeah, the Tremor package is good to go against things like a Canyon AT4 or a Toyota TRD Pro, but I would like to see Ford take on General Motors in the dune jumping mid-sized truck segment here in North America.